Hi folks, John Cordisco back again. All I can say, wow, wow, and wow. One of my favorite tournaments, not because it's here in the United States, because it just is. It's the second annual Sinquefield Cup. This amazing, amazing, amazing tournament. Top-notch world-class players. You'll never see these many guys in the same place in the United States ever. And this is an amazing, amazing game. What a beautiful game this is. This will go down in the tactic books for years as white, someone that needs no introduction in the chess world. Long-time number 2 in the world, Aronian from Armenia. And as black, Caruana-WOW. I'll tell you, now playing for the U.S., I might add, I got to tell you, this is an amazingly beautiful game. I do want to say before we start, if you could subscribe to my channel, I'd personally appreciate it, because I've been off for a while and some of my subscription numbers are a little down. Well, hopefully these videos for the Sinquefield Cup will bring that up. Anyway, let's get to it. Enough of my gabbing. Aronian is white. Caruana is black. It's going to be a Queen's Gambit decline. Let's go first. The first few moves here. Just typical opening stuff. C5, knight e4. That's the last book move. Small advantage for white. Usually the opening advantage. First move. There's several things to look at here. Still early in the game. Bishop d3, queen to c2, maybe, knight to b5. But Aronian decides to go rook to c1. Okay. I can see that easy enough. Knight takes, rook takes. You want to do pawn takes, you want to mess up his pawns. b6. Alright. We're playing Caruana. One of the top 5 players in the world. c6, just to shove that pawn down his throat. I like that move, actually. Computer likes c takes b6, but I don't agree. I like c6. Forcing the move the knight to f6. a3, just to stop the bishop from coming here, of course. Pitting the rook against the king. a5. Bishop goes to d3. Good spot for this good bishop, quote unquote, being his center pawns are in dark squares. And that pawn on c6 isn't really getting hit by anything, nor will it for a while. Knight d4, hitting the rook. Instead of taking with the bishop, he just decides to move the rook back. He likes to keep that light squared bishop. And we're going to see later that light squared bishop is quite the hero. f6. Queen e2. Bishop d6. Now I think most of us amateur players would probably just snap off that bishop right away. Not these guys. They're world-class players. I like castles. So does the computer. Or h4 is also a good move. He just decides to castle. There's a lot of moves here. Queen e7, a4. g5, rook f7. There's a lot to choose from here. Fabiano decides to go g5, hitting the bishop. Takes the bishop. What to do, what to do? I think the bulk of us would take with the queen, but the little bit more accurate move is the knight takes, which he did. Rook d1. I do want to mention at this point, you're going to be just small interviews with each player. Aronian as well as Caruana. Caruana was gracious enough, and Aronian was gracious enough to give interviews. I'm not going to say who wins the game yet. a4, just to stop that b pawn from advancing, just to keep it from coming up. Knight to d2. e5. Here we go. He's trying to break. Right now, there's a tiny advantage for black, but I think it's about even. He's got to do something, of course, because that bishop's going to get trapped. So he goes e4. Wow, wow, wow. E takes d4 is probably the most accurate. But then you're going to hook up the, once e takes d5, you're going to have connected pawns down your throat. So he goes f5 instead. f3. I mean, these guys are on the edge here. I do want to mention, it looks like all of the games in the first round are going to be decisive. Right now, there's still one game in play. And the last game still being played is the Carlson and Topoloff game. I'm not going to give away what's going on there. You'll have to watch the video that's coming up. D takes, F takes, rook to A5. Very, very clever way to get that rook into play. Very clever. Now that rook is right in the action. And that bishop on C8 still there, but the rook finds an open ground to go on. Those of you that were wondering if E takes instead, after E5, rook E8, queen H5, it's about even, but I'd rather have white, to be honest with you. After rook to A5, E takes. I think knight takes or E takes D4 is about the same. Caruana decided to take with the knight. Probably bring the pieces over towards his king. It's looking a little exposed now with all those pawn pushes. Bishop checks. King goes to G7. And D5. There we go. There's those two connected pawns here right down his throat. One on the 6th rank and one on the 5th. And with this bishop right here, the queen can jump over here at any time. This knight can jump in. It's looking pretty good for Aronian, even though the computer only shows a half pawn advantage. I like white a lot. For those of you that were wondering instead, if D takes E5, knight to D4, queen, knight takes, queen to D4 check, king to H1, rook to F2, and white loses. So you have to be careful on those pawn captures. Make sure you take the right one. After D5, I think this is where Caruana errs. And I think it's a very natural move. Very natural. I like knight to D6 myself, just to bring the knight back to block the pawn, go after the light squared bishop. But he decides to go rook to E8. It's not a blunder. I think it's a miscue. If he had gone knight to D6 instead, after queen takes check, king to H6, it's a little scary for black, but I think he's okay. He's down a pawn, but he's got some resources here. That knight's doing a beautiful job of blocking the D pawn. Can't move it because that rook on A5 is attacking it as well. I think black's okay. But after rook to E8, knight to E4, here come the pieces. And this is where I think Caruana miscues again. He really should go rook to F8 or B5. But he goes knight to D4. And this is a beautiful combination that Aronian saw when he played knight to E4. Beautiful, beautiful combination. Rook sacrifice. Queen to H5. Beautiful stuff. It's an almost 2-point advantage now for white. It doesn't look dangerous, but stop the video and work it out. It is. And bishop F5 is probably the best choice for black here. Get the last piece out. I mean, we're on move 26 and that bishop hasn't moved yet. Get the bishop on F5 to protect the H7 pawn and H6 square in front of the king. But he takes the rook. He miscues. And just like that, instantly, it's an over 7-point advantage for white. The Caruana to miss that badly is really unusual. And this you really got to think long and hard. So what to do? What to do? You just lost a rook. Your rook on E1 isn't free. Doesn't matter. Knight takes G5. Beautiful, beautiful move. This is a beautiful combination coming up. For those of you that are wondering if he had taken the rook after check and then mate. So we know that is no good. Now, after knight takes G5, bishop to F5. One move too late, I think. Now this is a move that's really hard to find. If you're a world-class player like Aronian, and I'm surprised Caruana missed this combination. It's kind of subtle, but not too subtle. Now stop the video now and see if you can find white's winning move. I think all of us would play queen to f7 check. And believe it or not, after king to h6, black escapes. You got to remember, black's up a rook, a full rook for a pawn. What to do, what to do. And the move is, it's a beautiful move. Well calculated, beautiful. Rook to f1. Wow, wow, wow. What on earth is black going to do? Best move he has is queen f6. Now this is where 11, when I say miscues, I don't mean miscues. There's so many winning things here. I mean, queen takes e8, actually, picking up the rook again, is actually the worst move. Give you an idea how bad off black is. Rook, or excuse me, knight to e6 check. The best move was rook takes f5. And after queen takes f5, knight to e6 check. He just reversed the order. What he saw was winning anyway. So when you see a winning combination, you don't look for any others. There's so many ways to win this. Knight to e6 check. Rook takes the knight. Now rook takes the bishop. Best move for black is queen to g6. And it's still over. Pawn takes. Now, rook to g5 actually is better, because after rook to e8, bishop d3, he is just a killer. Hitting the knight, hitting the queen. Can't move the queen. Best you can do is take the rook, and then you lose the knight after that. But this still wins as well. Queen takes, rook takes, knight d4, e7. Rook has to come back. It's still winning, it's just not as pretty. Rook takes, rook e8, rook e4. You can do a spite check. You can go knight to c2, I guess, just to be spiteful, but it doesn't really change anything. Knight to f5, hitting the pawn. Bishop to e6. Knight to d6. Bishop. Knight takes. Bishop takes. King f6. And then bishop g6. What a beautiful move that is. Bishop g6. You can take the pawn on e7 with the king, but bishop takes the knight. You can play pawn takes bishop, then the pawn queens. Either way, black is doomed, and that's finally where Fabiano Caruana resigned. To give you an idea, if you move the knight, you queen, knight takes, bishop takes, it's over. You're up a piece and a pawn. Anyway, folks, that was a hell of a game. What a beautiful combination by Aronian. Granted, he didn't use the most artistic continuation, but to be all over someone like Caruana with so many ways to win is very unusual. So there you have it, the first game from the Sinquefield Cup 2015, and a hell of a game it was. All the games were decisive in the first round. With these world-class players, there's blood everywhere. It's going to be great to see some of the games. Look for more videos coming up. And as I always say, folks, if you think chess is just a game, you're not playing it right. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.
We are with Fabulous Fabi, who this game didn't work out for him. He won all those games last year, but this start, Caruana, you played a great, at least interesting opening. We were really impressed by the pawn moves, the unusual pawn structure, but at some point the game slipped away from you. Where did that happen?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Round f3 was very complicated. I'm not sure if a4 was the best move. I could also play g4 on move 17, and then e5, knight d2, e5, and we get a similar position.
The engines thought you were okay in that line as well.
Yeah, maybe that was the best way to play, because this, I started to get a bit uncomfortable, and I think taking in rook a5 is not good. I actually forgot that for some reason I was looking at, after knight takes a5, d5 immediately, but not bishop c4 check, and then d5. And this is just very strong. Yeah, and I think he played very well after that.
were you know, when we see these kind of structures that are unusual, you know, we get uncomfortable, right? It's like, wait, can black play G5 and play with all these pawn moves? But you seem to play them boldly. Was this preparation for you beforehand?
I had looked at it briefly. I mean, it was the position it's so complicated, and there's many options for both sides that it's difficult to check everything. But I thought that this position was at least playable. Should have been checked a bit more because it's very difficult to play over the board. I have to say his rookie one move was very good. I'm not sure if he found it over the board or if he had known something before the game. But this move I knew was very dangerous. But I think that yeah, after this I didn't respond accurately. A4 wasn't the best. I mean, maybe it's playable, but I think that G4 and E5 is a more accurate way.
The move Rook E8, we were talking about maintaining the tension. We said Rook E8 looked like a strong move. The engines thought you were fine in this position, but just chatting with you before we came on the air, you felt like that wasn't quite comfortable for you either.
Yeah, it looked a bit loose. And yeah, he could take on D5 or he could play Queen F2 first. And my king is always very shaky. Maybe a computer will defend it, but yeah, over the board it seemed risky.
How do you handle a tough start? Round one of a tournament like this one, a lot of good memories for you from last year. Now you've lost the first round. How do you handle the disappointment?
Well, I'll try to come back quickly if I can. I don't think that that if you start badly, it's the end of the tournament, or if you start well, it means you're going to perform well the rest of the event. In Norway, one of the most recent tournaments I played, the first leg of the Grand Chess Tour, I started pretty well. I drew against Vichy. I beat Magnus in the second round, and the event didn't go very well for me after that. And then in the next event, at Dortmund, I lost in the second round, and then I won 5 games in a row and won the tournament. So I wouldn't say that it's. I mean, it's not pleasant to start with a loss, but it isn't the end of the tournament by any means.
Wise words. Well, thanks so much for joining us admirably after such a tough game, and we wish you the best in the rest of the tournament. Grandmaster Fabiano Caruana, after a tough loss to start off, but a lot of with the winner, first winner of 2015's Sinquefield Cup, Levon Aronian. Levon, yesterday at the press conference, I remarked on how poorly your year had gone, and you said, America, land of opportunity, time to turn things around. It looks like you took advantage of that opportunity today in winning your game.
Yeah, I think it worked out pretty well. So, I mean, my words during the press conference, I didn't regret them. I didn't get to regret them.
Now, this game was crazy. I mean, this was one of the first games we started paying attention to, along with the game that Magnus was playing in that contest. But this game was wild. Were you surprised by his demonstrations with F6, G5, then E5, then F5, and all those pawns just coming up the board?
It was interesting because I know this line a bit. I mean, I kind of analyzed a long time ago, and I was feeling that it's interesting to play. And I felt that this is the only way for black to proceed. Otherwise, I mean, if he allows me to play F4, which I'm threatening after knight D2, then it's practically hopeless because he's just sitting there waiting for me to do anything. I mean, so of course this is very normal to play for black. But I was a bit surprised with F5, I have to say honestly. I was thinking he would go ED, and here I prepared Rook C2, C1, which I felt is very interesting.
Meaning pre-game preparation? Or
no,
during, oh,
no.
You mean you were thinking of?
Yeah, I was thinking of Rook C2, C1. I thought that's a very subtle move and might be a good move because I'm threatening to play E5. So I felt the position is kind of balanced, but I kind of like when my opponent has a weakened king. So.
Makes it a lot easier. Now, there was one position, we did talk about Rook E8, but there was one position where you were playing these moves. You sacrificed a rook around, let's see if we can get to the position here, on the board, right here when he played knight to D4. Now, what were you thinking when you saw this line? Because you did go into a bit of a think, and you saw knight D4 and queen H5 was possible. Did you work everything out, say this is just over if he goes after your rook?
Yeah, I saw rook F1, queen F6, and here I saw millions of wins, so it's good enough for me. And knight E4, I was kind of thinking he would play knight D6, but it's just too hopeless.
Indeed, and in this position you played the move Queen H5, and then he took your rook, you took, and after Bishop F5, this beautiful move, Rook F1. I'm assuming you saw the variation with Rook G6, Rook F7, and that's going to be all she wrote in those lines. Were you smiling when that was happening on the board?
Yeah, because it's kind of beautiful. So you don't get a chance to play a nice move like Queen H6 and he cannot do anything.
Yes, absolutely. Now, we were arguing, okay, and Jen, you know, she has a soft spot, so she was arguing on your side. We were saying, would this go down in the annals of chess history, a beautiful attacking game? When in this position you play Queen F6, and it was possible to play Rook takes F5 right now, and you instead opted for the move Knight to E6, and then you said to me, you saw this, and what was your remark?
Yeah, it's kind of a lazy choice, Knight E6. But it also, you know, I think Capablanca was who said, if you have a choice between winning opponent's queen for free and giving him a mate, just take the queen, because you might not find the mate. And I saw that I'm just taking everything, so I didn't think I should bother to, think at that moment for too long.
Okay, well, lazy chess. I'm not going to tell my students about lazy chess, by the way.
Good.
Although I do have a student, Robert Guzman, who used to say, even when he had mate on the board and he was about to take your queen, he said, no, I'll let you get out of the mate just so I can take your queen. I don't think you would agree with that one, but certainly...
That's a bit too materialistic, even for me.
You have a great start now. First round is over. What are your thoughts about the rest of the tournament?
Well, I'm excited because I won in the first round against a strong opponent, so I'll try to win some more. So that's the plan, not to stop. To continue playing well, because I think today I played well.
Well, we hope to see more of those games. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Best of luck in the rest of the Sinquefield Cup. Levon Aronian, welcome back to America, the land of opportunity. He certainly took advantage.